Okay, here is a problem similar to problem number 1 on the week 5 homework. And so remember, the question is asking us which ones could not be a probability distribution. And there's a couple things you need to know about probability distributions. First of all, they have to be between 0 and 1. Because the smallest chance that something could happen is a 0% chance, and then the largest chance that something could happen is a 100% chance, which would be a 1. So I'm going to look at example A and see, first of all, are all the probabilities between 0 and 1, because that's the first thing. And I know this notation can be a little bit confusing. All that means for this column, X just means each event. So event number 1, event number 2, event number 3, etc. Right? So there's obviously 6 different events that could happen here. And this stands for the probability that that X is going to happen. So the probability of that event happening. So the first thing I need to look for again are these probabilities all between 0 and 1. That one is, yep, and yep. Okay, all those decimals are somewhere between 0 and no bigger than 1. So step 1, mission accomplished. The second thing that has to happen is that these are all the individual probabilities of each of these events happening. So besides the fact that they need to be between 0 and 1, the second thing that needs to happen is that their sum must equal 1. So if you add all the individual probabilities together, their sum should be 1. Otherwise, that's not the sum of all the different things that could happen. So I just use my handy dandy little calculator really quickly to add all these probabilities together. And I actually get 1.50. So I added all those probabilities together. It was bigger than 1. It was 1.50. So that means that this cannot be a probability distribution because it violated the second thing, which was that it had to be a sum of 1. So this is not. So if this were multiple choice, I would say example A could not be a sample distribution. That would be one of my answers. Now let's check on sample B. So we've got, first of all, this is between 0 and 1. And then if I add them together, I get 1.20. So again, greater than 1. So this is not a probability distribution. Let me write that out so you can see. And again, you know how my handwriting is, guys, or hopefully you know that by now. So sorry about that. Not exactly the best. That should be a D. Sure doesn't look like a D, does it? All right. Last but not least, example C. Don't let it throw you off that now X is suddenly different numbers. That doesn't matter. It just means what's the probability of getting a 90, a 100, or 110, apparently, in this particular example. So first thing I need to look at is, so my probability of this one happening is between 0 and 1, between 0 and 1, between 0 and 1. So now let's add them all together. And sure enough, if I add them, I get 1.00, which is the same thing as 1. So this one could be, so it could be a probability distribution. I'm just going to abbreviate here. So if this were a question which is just like the one on your homework, the question on your homework asks you which ones could not be a probability distribution. So if I were to choose the correct answer, I would say examples A and B are the two that could not be a probability distribution.